As the 1993 World Rally Championship season drew to a close, cars from Toyota, Subaru, Mitsubishi, Ford and Lancia gathered together for one final time. By the final time control, it was Toyota celebrating victory. But if GM Eurosport had had their way, we could have been telling a very different story. We need to go back a few years to the end of the 1990 season, where GM Eurosport will be celebrating victory on the world stage, with Louise Aitken-Walker becoming Ladies World Rally Champion in the Opel Kadett. But the team already had their eyes on an even bigger prize and were working hard behind the scenes to realise that dream. The Kadett had already proven itself as a worthy and capable challenger in its class, but the front-wheel drive car was never going to be able to compete with the likes of Ford, Subaru and Toyota for the overall championship title. So with a new set of regulations coming in for the 1993 season, GM Eurosport set to work on their own four-wheel drive contender, the Opel Vectra. For more details on this fascinating story, we delve into the archives with Tony Mason, who visited the team to see what this project was all about.
This report shows the status of the J-Car 4x4 Turbo Rally programme. As you can see, we actually have a turbocharged Vectra Rally Car up and running, built to conform to the newly revised FISA homologation requirements that will be introduced at the start of 1993. The development programme for this car was initiated in March by Rally's manager Melvin Hodgson in line with our declared strategy.
We've actually got to the first initial stages of development. We've built our first car, which is up and running, and we have our second car partly built at the moment. We started in March and we anticipate 2.5-year development programme so as to be ready for the 1993 World Rally Championship programme.
Development of such a rally car requires detailed attention to the engine, transmission, suspension and braking system. David Whitehead's initial objective as Rally's engineer is to prove the 6-speed X-Track competition transmission. In order to do this before the availability of the production 16-valve turbo engine, it's been necessary to build a slave turbo engine so that development can proceed on all chassis details and in particular the competition four-wheel drive transmission.
Yeah, the slave engine, we didn't limit ourselves with any of the complicated Group A regulations. We want an engine to give representative current Group A horsepower figures of between 340 and 370. So we have an open brief on the engine, and it has a steel crankshaft, steel conrods, no restrictor at all as far as air is concerned in the engine, and we've tuned it to a level that we believe our competitors are currently at 340. That undoubtedly is going to go up to 370, 380, and I believe that Toyota and Lancia, and Mitsubishi for that matter, currently have those sort of performance levels, and we can get everything from this engine that they can have as well. That gives our transmission a realistic test for the future and makes sure that we don't go down blind alleys with development, that when we do eventually couple it up to a proper engine package, we have all the reliability and durability problems in another year's time. We received the first transmission as little as 2 or 3 months ago. It's taken a long time by way of concept to manufacture. It varies from the production J-Car 4x4 transmission in so much as we run a 3-shaft principle. This allows us to drive the centre differential first and then split the power to the front and rear differentials via a clutch pack and an epicyclic gear train, very, very similar to the production system. This then means that via clever hydraulic control units we can actually alter the torque split front and rear, and the transmission is proving that it can do everything that we had hoped it could do, albeit we have a long way to go yet with the control systems for that transmission. That's linking into the data logging, really quantifying exactly what we have and what we're hoping to achieve, and then coming up with an electronic package that can actually control that. We're doing it in simplistic terms at the moment by alternating between a 30-70 split, 70% bias towards the rear, for good handling characteristics, and locking it up more into the 50-50 mode, which gives us the maximum traction. The idea being to try and make four-wheel drive as drivable as possible whilst retaining all its traction qualities. and this is what all teams are currently working on. I believe that with this transmission being as versatile as it is, we can actually go a lot further than anybody's currently doing.
The final power of the 2-litre turbo engine for the competition Vectra will be dependent on the key factors outlined to TDC back in 1989. They are, firstly, adequate turbo capacity with no restriction less than 40 mm diameter in the intake to the turbo. Secondly, a production intercooler with sufficient capacity to satisfy competition requirements. And finally, adequate ventilation of the engine compartment to dissipate the higher temperatures generated by the competition engine. This may entail a specific hood panel for the vehicle. All this is necessary as we must retain the standard parts in Group A. FISA, the governing body, have confirmed that no concessions will be made on these items, so it's imperative that provision is made for them in quantities of at least 2,500 for the production base car. It may be that this can only be achieved with a sport variant of the J four-wheel drive turbo, built at an external source and incorporating the particular items required to ensure a competitive specification for motorsport use. Jeff Moore is our electronics engineer and has provided the engine management system for the development vehicle. He is also responsible with Charlie Nicol for developing the sophisticated four-wheel drive transmission control systems.
Well, the car is equipped with a complete intelligent data logging system and instrumentation system, which allows the driver in the car to monitor basically whatever is being measured, and also the engineers to download information from the car to analyse back at base or in the field for future use. We're looking at basically any parameter associated with the transmission or engine, so we're measuring forward drive shaft speeds, gearbox temperature, rear differential temperature, boost pressure on the engine, engine speed, inlet air temperature, intercooler temperatures in and out to ensure the radiator and intercooler are still working at peak efficiency. Generally anything affecting transmission or engine.
With 380 horsepower available, the major objective is to maintain traction in the off-road conditions that are predominant in the World Rally Championship. The suspension and braking systems are rated within the freedom of the regulations. This permits the replacement of production parts with specific competition parts designed by Mike Pilbeam to cope with the arduous conditions, while maximising the available suspension travel to 200 millimetres. Dave Gray, the suspension engineer, has already highlighted the need for 50 millimetre diameter front struts, which have been developed by Decarbon.
Yeah, I think perhaps we need a fairly high bleed setting on it to control the car roll and so on.
It's got the sort of larger bump rubber onto what we normally use.
Yeah, well, we did wonder whether it was bottoming out and crashing out on the bump rubbers, which might need to be changed. Yeah, it's a small one. I think when we get the readout from the computer on what all the wheels are doing exactly, we shall know a bit more exactly about where we've got to go.
Yeah, okay.
Hands-on testing of the new car has been progressing well. But what does all this testing tell us? Is the car competitive? Well, the Astra Kadett, as campaigned by GM Eurosport, provides an accurate yardstick by which to assess the performance of the Vectra. Let's look at the two cars in action. As the cars start a 1-mile test stage in a Welsh forest, the obvious advantage of the four-wheel drive system becomes apparent. While the two-wheel drive Astra Kadett scrabbles for grip, look at the superb traction of the four-wheel drive system. Although the Astra Kadett has proved itself to be one of the most successful of all rally cars in its class, it's visibly slower out of corners and up the hills than the Vectra. For outright honours in world-class rallying, four-wheel drive must be the way to go. Just look at the difference. So there's no question about the advantage of four-wheel drive. What's the opinion of professional driver Dave Metcalfe? Dave, there's an obvious difference between the two cars. Just how big a difference is there?
The big difference is the four-wheel drive. In conditions like this where it's really slippery and out of the tight bends, the traction is phenomenal, and also it's so drivable, and the transmission itself being controllable and adjustable in the tight stuff makes it very easy to drive, and it's a big advantage.
This stage here that we've been using today is just over 1 mile. Did this contain all the different elements?
That's right. It's got tight bends and it's got uphill hairpins, and the big advantage is in the tight bends, out of the tight bends, where you need the traction to get from low speed to high speed, but also there's some fast uphill sections, and the car is just so easy to drive and very drivable. You don't have to work hard at all in the fast bends, and so you're gaining in both worlds.
The future development programme over the next 2 years will concentrate on bringing GM Europe the benefits of being fully competitive against the increasing European and Japanese challengers in the World Rally Championship. Toyota, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Subaru and Nissan, together with Lancia, Volkswagen and Ford, will be competing in 1991 and are already committed to long-term World Championship programmes. The four-wheel drive Turbo Vectra will continue to be developed to achieve World Rally Championship honours in 1993.